Salutations, respected viewers. I'm George from Ireland. Here I am in front of St Mary's Episcopalian Cathedral in Edinburgh. So I'm going to talk about the Scottish Episcopal Church, not particularly about this edifice behind me, but what is Episcopalianism? Well, it's a type of Reformed Christianity. Some Episcopalians would say they're Protestant, others would say they're not, they're simply Reformed. And it takes its name from Episcopus as in bishop in Greek. So there was a Reformation in the 1530s in Germany, well 1520s really in Germany, 1530s in England, other European countries, Scotland the 1550s. And the Church of Scotland was established, but it became Presbyterian in character. That's to say that it got rid of bishops, archbishops and indeed priests, because it said these are too redolent of Roman Catholicism, and against Romanist superstition, all the rest of it. So they want no intermediaries between God and man. So they ordinary churchgoers elect elders. Elders are not necessarily old. They're representatives of the laity, of the congregation, and they go to the General Assembly and they control the church and all the rest of it. And they have moderators to represent different provinces of Scotland, as in the ministers will have a special theological education, and moderators are high-up ministers. There'll be a moderator of the Church of Scotland, elected he or she says 1 year only, and that's it. But the Episcopalian Church is different. It's got bishops and archbishops. Now, in Scotland, the national church is the Church of Scotland, and this was a minor one, the Episcopalian Church. So the Episcopalian Church is in full communion with the Church of England. As if you're an Anglican, that's to say a member of the Church of England, you came up here, you would worship in the Episcopalian Church. Whereas if you're a Church of Scotland person and you went to England or some other country, you'd find a Presbyterian church would be really your spiritual home, very close to what you're used to. So the Episcopalian Church, it believes in apostolic succession. So Jesus called his 12 disciples, and they became 12 apostles. They were disciples of the same root as discipline or disco, as in I teach. But they were then supposedly given authority by Jesus Christ, because he chose them. And the idea is they are the first bishops. And they ordained the next generation of bishops, who ordained the next generation of bishops, right down to today. And so a current bishop will say, my hand has been touched by another bishop who ordained me, and he, or indeed she, was ordained by a bishop, all the way back to the 12 apostles, back to Jesus Christ. That's what apostolic succession is. They come after the apostles, and there's a direct line between any bishop today and Jesus Christ, and an archbishop is simply a high-up bishop. So there's certain ceremonies that only a bishop can perform. Now, in the Roman Catholic Church, we believe in apostolic succession, as well as in the Episcopalian Church, they believe in it. Indeed, in the United States, well, there was the American Revolution, there'd been the Church of England up until that point, and they split, and they set up the Episcopalian Church, which is really the spiritual sister of the Episcopalian Church in Scotland, or indeed the Church of England. And so Anglican bishops would no longer ordain clergy in the United States after the American Revolution. So the Episcopalian Church, they got the Church of Denmark to do it. So the Church of Denmark was also reformed, as in they'd been through the Reformation, 16th century, but they still had bishops and archbishops. So there's a distinction amongst reformed churches. Do you have bishops or not? So the higher church is a bit more similar to Catholicism in feel, in optics and so forth. They tend to have bishops and archbishops. The lower churches, Presbyterians, Methodists, Baptists, Congregationalists, Quakers, and so forth, they don't have bishops and archbishops. They think that's too similar to Catholicism. But the Episcopalians would say, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, okay? I mean, one thing is slight weakness as an Episcopalian to say, but you're not a Roman Catholic. You don't believe the Pope is head of your church. You might call yourself a sort of an Episcopalian, or a Caledonian Catholic perhaps. In England, an Anglo-Catholic. You practice Catholicism within the Episcopalian Church, drawing on those pre-Reformation traditions. You might want to call your priest father. You might believe in sacraments, even if not 7 of them. And you might venerate the Blessed Virgin and invoke the saints and so forth, and go on pilgrimages, and you might exalt relics and things. But the Bishop of Rome is not the head of your church. And by the way, this is not an established church, so the monarch actually isn't the head of this one. Now, the House of Windsor, when they come to North Britain, they worship at the Church of Scotland, not the Episcopalian Church. Because there's a minor denomination here, and there was an attempt, under James I and indeed Charles I, to make the Church of Scotland have bishops. It briefly worked, but then most people in Scotland didn't like that. They rebelled against it. They felt it was crypto-Catholic. The Episcopalian Church therefore still exists, but it's a minor denomination in Scotland. The Church of Scotland is far more numerous. That's a sort of default setting for people in Scotland to be members of the Church of Scotland. So the laity have less of a role in the Episcopalian Church. By the laity, I mean ordinary men and women who attend church. Anyone who's not a religious leader is a layman, or indeed a lay woman. I know we use layman to mean someone without a high level of education, without an expertise in a certain field. But in a religious context, it means someone who was not a minister of religion by profession. So there we have it, St. Mary's, and they're keen on saints, whereas the Church of Scotland's not so keen. Anyway, I was going to say that the debility of the Episcopalian Church is they disregard one of the verses in the Bible, which surely would be germane to their theology, as they've got bishops and archbishops, like when Jesus Christ said of Peter, "This is the rock upon which I build my church." Okay, Petra, obviously meaning rock in Greek, like Petra in Jordan, or Pierre in French, small p, capital P, is either a name or word for the stone, depending on whether it's small or big, P. Saying, "I'll give you the keys to the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you say is bound on earth is bound in heaven. Whatever you say is loosed on earth is loosed in heaven." So that's the verse the Catholic Church uses to claim its authority. And that's why on the Vatican flag you have the cross, keys, 1 silver, 1 gold, and so forth. St. Peter supposed being the first pope. Now, although the Episcopalian Church, they would look back to the pre-Reformation Catholic Church, they would accept a lot of that heritage, but they would say that by the 16th century, the Catholic Church had lost its way, which is why they're obliged to have a reformation, and indeed they were actually throwing out later accretions or corruption and going back to proper Christianity. So you can see it's quite artistic. You can see images of saints carved into the stonework up high. Very tall. The Church of Scotland tends not to build enormous cathedrals. It's only got one cathedral actually, St. Giles' Cathedral, just for historic purposes. They still keep the name cathedral because, of course, cathedral is a rather Catholic word, and the Church of Scotland says, well, we mustn't be going in for that because the cathedral comes from cathedra, which is a throne they sit on. I don't know what the enormous key is about. The bishop or archbishop would sit on a throne in there, and so they don't do that. The Church of Scotland, they don't have bishops as we do, okay? And they've even got words in Latin up there. Wow. I don't write. You're given life by the Son, Christ, Son of God, is that right? And then they've got little gargoyles to frighten off the evil spirits. So that's the idea, that's what St. Mary's is about. If you didn't know better, you'd think it was a Catholic cathedral. Anything else to say about it? So, I can't remember, I think it's the Archbishop of St. Andrews, the highest priest in the Episcopalian Church. And they've had women as clergy since the early 90s. Get an idea of what it's about. Okay. I think I'll switch it off quite soon. Preparing for Christmas. So I'm not sure they do the bells and smells. Well, they will have some bells, but I don't know if they're into incense. So that's what it's about. Ooh, they even have the bishop. They even have the lectern in the shape of an eagle, just like in the Church of England up there. The lectern is the stand on which the Bible stands. You can't really see from this distance. I won't bother showing you when people are going to read out the Bible. It's placed on the lectern. And look above this coat of arms. They've got the mitre, the bishop's hat, meant to be symbolic of Pentecost, so 50 days after the ascension of Jesus Christ, when the 12 disciples were very frightened, they were meeting, and then flames came out of their heads. That's supposed to be the shape of a tongue of flame. That's supposed to be the one mitre. They have a crozier as in to guide their flock of sheep. So the flock is the congregation, and we are Jesus, who was the Lamb of God. But as Christopher Hitchens says, everything you need to know about Christianity is contained in that pathetic image of the flock. And so shepherds do not look after sheep because they like them. The shepherds, they either want to fuck them or kill them. And if they're lucky, the sheep will have that done to them in the opposite order. Anyway, Alright, that's enough for me. I'll switch it off. So that's enough about Episcopalianism. Please donate to me on PayPal, georgecallahan79@gmail.com, or on Patreon. Book me for online lessons in history, politics, religious studies, English literature, English as a foreign language, French. Get me to edit your documents, translate from French, Spanish, Italian, German, Romanian, or Russian. Or I help people with law degrees and so on, or interview practice. Anything in the humanities, really. Okay, goodbye.